Hello, and welcome to Writing Tips with Rachel. Today I'm sharing my best tips for working on multiple projects at the same time. I'm the type of writer who likes to have multiple projects going at the same time. Not everyone likes working this way, and I acknowledge that, but I still want to make a case for it. For me, working on multiple projects keeps the writing of each project fresh. When I write too long on one project, I feel fatigued, like I'm not giving my best work. Right now, I'm working on a young adult romance, a middle grade ghost story, an adult literary novel, a poetry book, and a chapter book. One project informs another. If I find myself drying out in creativity for one project, I move on to another. This also helps me avoid writer's block, or what I call writing resistance. There's always something I'm working on. If I feel stuck in one story, I just move on and let my brain rest and work on behalf of that story while I'm not consciously thinking about it. Because the brain does that, and it's pretty amazing. Which is another benefit of working on multiple projects. You prime your brain to be thinking about these projects, and it works in the background. Also, those shiny ideas, I can chase them. Obviously, within reason. I can't start 40 projects and expect to keep them all going at the same time. My max is about 5 projects to juggle. Working on multiple projects makes me feel like I'm making good progress all the time. I find that my writing feels like it goes a little stale after about 1.5 hours. I have more hours to fill with writing. And let me say here that I know this is a privilege. Not every writer has more than 1.5 hours to spend on their writing. I'm very lucky and thankful for that time. Juggling multiple projects allows me to give one of them space if it needs it, and still feel like I'm progressing and meeting my writing goals. It's tricky to balance multiple projects, but if you want to try it, here are my best tips. Number 1, make the projects different enough so your brain doesn't get confused and they don't all sound the same. You can choose different genres or age groups, different formats, very different characters. What you don't want is each of your projects to sound like they were written at the same time because they're way too similar. Try a poetry manuscript and a couple of novels or a nonfiction book. It works for me to have a middle grade book, a picture book or chapter book, a young adult book, an adult book, and a poetry or nonfiction book going at the same time. If I do work on multiple projects for the same age group, I make sure the characters are very different. Once, I wrote a middle grade novel in verse with a female main character. At the same time, I wrote a middle grade horror story with a male main character. The projects felt different enough to write at the same time. Know your characters and story well. That also helps. Number 2, try a timer and a schedule. Some people don't work well with a timer or a schedule. My husband is one of those people, but I encourage you to try it anyway. To make sure I don't go stale on a project, I usually don't work on it for more than 90 minutes. Most projects I work on for about an hour, and once the timer's up, I move on to another. It can feel jarring at first, moving from project to project, but you do get used to it. Here's the thing. The brain is always working behind the scenes. We put away the project, and the brain still works on it. So not working on a project is as valuable as the time spent working on it. Number 3, keep notes that allow you to jump back into the project seamlessly. Usually, at the end of a writing session, I jot a little note about where the next chapter will go. I also have notes on character and plot that make jumping back in easier. If I think of something during the day, I jot that down too. I've had some of my best ideas for how to improve a story when I'm not actually working on it. That's taught me to value the time I'm not focused on a particular project and allows me the freedom to move on to something else. I'll repeat, just so you know I know. Not everyone enjoys working on multiple projects at once. That's okay. We all work differently and have to find our own process. But if you've never done it before, I encourage you to try it before you dismiss it entirely. If you've been around here long, you know I am all for experimentation in our writing lives. The more we experiment with our writing processes, the more easily we'll find what works and doesn't work for us. That's it for today's Writing Tips with Rachel. I hope this video has been helpful to you. I'd love to know if you're someone who works on multiple projects or just one at a time. Be sure to subscribe to my channel for videos about books and life and more videos like this. Thanks for watching.